Great. So the photograph that I have is almost the same that we have on our poll. Efficiency focused and usually trying to extend life to save costs, the life cycle of a ticket, of an asset. Sorry, GLPI is in GLPI you have the availability of have a change management database for those who knows some good practices of the market and frameworks, and it brings you the opportunity to have automatic inventory of network devices. You know that, but also some manual if you want to, and why not with the option of having customized assets. You cannot have just computers, servers, switches, network devices, routers, printers, but also you can have some inventory related to other kind of machinery and equipment, like cars, like industrial equipments, air conditioning, and everything relies on data. You rely on data to have insights to your company and bring new decisions. If you use just the part of computers and servers and switches, you can for sure use our GLPI agent, which is available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. But you can use the same GLPI agent to bring data from other kinds of assets that have standard protocols like WinRM, SSH, and SNMP, for example. This is like having a photograph of your database, of your change management database, all your computers, all your assets. When we talk about, here I have something in French, sorry, so the management of services can relate financial data from contracts, from warranty, and you have the availability of control all the capacities of your racks, of your network devices and computers, the warranty alerts, for example, if you need to understand when it's time to renew a warranty or not, if the device is too old. And for sure, all the management of services for incidents, changes, problems, and it's not written there, but requests for sure. When we talk about the life cycle of an asset, usually we have a regular way of seeing that. And it was for sure, it was shown on the polls that we are most focused right now on saving costs, which makes us also see that maximize productivity, extend lifespan, improve decision making, and ensure compliance are related to this return on investment and costs, the ROI for sure. Probably almost all of you know this term in the market. But we are approaching a different scenario to this presentation with this plugin. We are not replacing, we are adding something up to the mixture. In 2024, we started a project called IEN, which is Impact Environmental du Numérique in French, with the coordination of IRT System X and our and several partners with our research and development department to develop a reference methodology to measure these costs, but not financial costs, environmental costs, the carbon intensity, the energy consumed, all the resources that we use from the earth. And with it, we have more opportunity to look into the social side of the costs. This project has been going since 2024, and in 2025 we've released the plugin called Carbon. The project is not done yet, so things are still running. This is the first version, let's say the first deliverable of this project, and the idea is to take all the data that we have on GLPI. Let's say we have inventory of computers, of cars, of network devices, of services, and leverage this data, collect some additional usage data like the power consumption, the primary energy that the primary material that is used to produce this energy, and also query some third-party tools. We are not doing everything. Some things come from other places, and bring you the data to have better decisions, to take better decisions, make better decisions. The external parties are at the moment the RTE from France and electricity maps. I will show you electricity maps and the RTE so you can see things live. And for assessing the impacts of products that are fabricated, created, we have some open source. We have an open source repository called Boa Vista that brings data. It's not TechLib's repository. This is another repository that brings data from the fabrication of processors, of computers, and to understand how we are using the resources, the abiotic resources of the earth. The plugin itself just takes information from our database, bring the data from electricity consumption and abiotic resources consumption, and make all the data, all the calculus, so we can have information to have better insights. For example, at these electricity maps that I've mentioned, when we see electricity in the world, electricity maps is one of the used sites that we bring data from. If we go into Brazil, for example, we have several places, and we can see that the carbon intensity is less. The impact of this carbon, the carbon intensity is lower in the south than in the north. And this is something that is taken into account also when we are talking about electricity consumption and all the impact that we live in the world. When we talk about the RTE, for example, we have also the electricity that is consumed all over France, for example. This is also brought to GLPI. And when we are talking about the production of assets, we use Boa Vista, which is also an API that can be instanced in Docker, for example, to bring data from this open source repository and make a triangle of data. We can, with this data, have more data. I'm just repeating myself. But with this estimation, and I will show you the plugin working, we can have better discussions about how can we reduce the carbon footprint that we live in the world, which are the suppliers that offer the lowest ADP, which is the abiotic depletion potential tariff. So it makes also all our suppliers to improve their life cycle and their fabrication, and what energy sources does my fleet use. So if I'm using an energy that consumes more carbon, that leaves more carbon footprint or less. So here we have the plugin working already. On the first tile, we can see the yearly usage carbon emission. Remember that we consume not just carbon. Carbon is just the equivalent for the market to understand the footprint. The carbon footprint is just equivalent, but we consume other kind of gases and resources. So this would be the yearly usage of this instance, taking into account all the computers that we have in the organization. This is the monthly, so we can compare the usage month to month. So this is comparing to December. And here is the embodied carbon emission that we live in the world. Here is something more related to energy. What is the primary energy that we've consumed, megawatts hour? And here is the grams in antimony equivalent. Antimony is also the, like I've mentioned before, we use gases, we use metal, we use other kind of resources, and there's no way to measure all the things without defining a standard. So this is the market standard for understanding which kind of chemicals we are using that can't be recycled, let's say this way. And down here, we can see the biggest monthly average carbon emission per model. As you can see here, we can decide if we will keep one kind of computer or not, or server, if they are consuming more carbon or less. And here we have a graphic where you can see the carbon emission compared to consumed energy. As you can see, there are times where we emit less carbon and consume the same amount of energy. This is due to the seasonal. Sometimes we have summer, sometimes we have winter, and sometimes we use one kind of primary energy, and sometimes we use another kind of primary energy. So GLPI with the plugin Carbon can bring this data, this kind of information to make better decisions. And for this to work, I would like to understand, how does your finance team currently view the end of life of assets? I will let a poll for you. Neutral, donation, unsure, liability, cost center. Great. It's neutral. The majority of you just donate or scrap them. It's usual. Or use it until it doesn't work anymore. I know. I've shown you all the graphics from the general environment that I have here. But in this screen here, you can see just the usage of one computer. And in order to the plugin to work, you have to fulfill these data here. So GLPI relies on some information coming from the inventory, which are inserted on the model of the computer. So I will show you the model that I have here. When you create a model of computer, you'll see the power consumption field where you are going to insert the estimated power consumption of this computer, or you can bring this data from the supplier. And then after you do that, you need to have a location created with a country, so the Carbon plugin can bring data from there. And for sure, you need the Boa Vista API and Electricity Maps API to work correctly. We have already a documentation on our help center, so you can see here that all the recommendations there are the location with a country or a state field, a startup date or a delivery date. So it brings us to the management of our assets. If you already do the total cost of ownership, you already know the management tab that we have on GLPI on every computer and every network device. The usage profile for computers. So this is something that comes with the plugin. So here you can see that I have a computer usage profile on the drop downs, where I can define if this kind of computer is always on, or if this kind of computer will be just on office hours. We are working towards a way to monitor these automatically, but at the moment you need to create a computer usage profile. And as I've mentioned before, the model or a type with a power consumption. And when we come back to our computer, we need startup date as usual. With all this information, I can see computer by computer or network device. And when I have more than one, I can see them for every kind of my whole environment. With the plugin Carbon, we can measure the emissions of the CO2, the abiotic, and all the environment impact that we live in the world. We are working towards a geolocation for calculating environmental impact. So at the moment, you need to create the countries, but the plugin brings some data too. So you are more than encouraged to explore it. We can estimate the carbon generated at the moment. It is always estimated because there's no measurement at the exit of a company to understand how many materials were used for every processor, for every hard disk, and so on. But the objective is to help with it's to help obtaining the certifications, the green certifications like the ISO 14044. At the moment, you can already start, if you have the time to create your instances and install the plugin. It's free. It's not under the subscription, but you can install it, link it to the electricity maps or RTE if you're in France, And in Quebec, we also have another provider, the governmental provider. But if you live in other places, we are working to have other third parties to help us realize and check the electricity that is consumed and generated from every place in the world. What element does this plugin use to produce these statistics? There's no agent that is measuring. GLPI will take information that is inserted in every model and also consume the API from electricity maps and Boa Vista for the production, like processors and all the hardware that is used for every computer, for example. But there's no agent measuring the power consumption of every device. Yeah, Ricardo, but you can create locations. So in this case, GLPI will work with locations. So if you open GLPI and setup dropdowns, you have the locations. On every location, you have to insert at least the country. So with the plugin and the location with a country, the plugin will take the information from electricity maps, for example, and check what is the energy that is used there. So what is the equivalent of carbon emitted for that kind of, for this space of time, this range of time in the year. If you see here, for example, in where we are, France, there's 70 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. And in Brazil, in my place, for example, 86 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. So this is the way that the Carbon plugin will take information from. You have to have the location set to the computer. Remember, the model needs the power consumption and the computer needs the location. So the plugin can understand how much of power is consumed by this computer and which is the kind of energy that is consumed by this computer. So it doesn't matter if you use it just in Brazil or all over the world. The prerequisites are on the documentation. I will let the link here too. So I'll let the plugin here. You can click there. There we have all the recommendations, how to install it, and what are the compatibility with our third parties, for sure. I have a question, a very good question that came through the questions. I understand that for Carbon to show optimal results, all assets must have their energy consumption correctly identified in the model. Can this also be applied in any kind of assets, included non-native assets? At the moment, I will share again the documentation just for you to know what I'm talking about. The plugin is supported just for computers, monitors, just the usage of network equipment, because we don't have the manufacturing data on Boa Vista from network equipment, just computers, monitors, and smartphones. But we don't have any other data at the moment that can be measured from other assets. At the moment, they are just for computer, monitor, and smartphone. Guys, I will also let you know that we are making monthly webinars. So this is the first of 2026. You can already let on your schedule that every last week of the month, we will have a webinar. So the next one will be about forms. I will let you know already that we are going to dive into forms. So let on your schedule, follow us on social media, because we are going to send you, again, the invitation so you can participate on these webinars. And if you, for example, have any ideas or any requests of webinars, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or email or whatever, because we are bringing to you some more webinars. The manufacturing phases, cool. We have in the world a project called Boa Vista. This is a project that relies on data from a community that insert data that comes from suppliers or that they found. And GLPI will understand taking the processor, the model of the processor, the model of the motherboard, the model of the RAM memory, and link it with the information that it's on Boa Vista. This is a collaborative library. So this is not something that all the suppliers send to GLPI. So these people that are collaborating to this library are bringing the data to the library, so you can create your Docker instance of Boa Vista, take the API. So there is also in our documentation the links for this Boa Vista, and this information will be inserted or calculated with the carbon emission and energy consumption. James Morris, that's a good question. We are working towards mutualization of data, mainly to the cloud and to a different version of the plugin, which will be under our subscription. So yes, the idea is to have also the like a central space where you just consume the data from our servers. So we are working right now at this phase of the project. Thank you for the question, guys. Thank you for your participation. It was quicker today. It was the opportunity to show you a little bit about our efforts on research and development. The team has worked a lot and is working still. So make sure to follow us on social media, please, on LinkedIn and Instagram, on Threads, on X. We are everywhere. So let us know what you want for the next webinars, and we are more than happy to have you here. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and see you around.